AEW president Tony Khan has had a lot to say about WWE, suggesting that AEW and WWE are currently at war, as well as suggesting that WWE has tampered with some of his stars' contracts, trying to persuade them to join the company. Got the very latest detail on that, plus a ton of clips from his bombshell interview. Lance Archer hasn't been seen on AEW programming for some time, and he says that's not by choice. Jeff Jarrett, what impact has he had on AEW launching house shows recently? Got an update on the release date for AEW Fight Forever, the upcoming video game. How long out of action is Thunder Rosa going to be? We've got an update on her in-ring return timeline. Was MJF's promo last week on Dynamite planned or not? We've got the latest details on rumors suggesting that it wasn't planned. Jeff Jarrett has also admitted that he blurred some lines in a recent AEW feud. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And let's start off talking about Tony Khan and this big interview that he's done, shooting on WWE, saying that they have been tampering with AEW stars' contracts, trying to get them out of contracts with AEW to join WWE, saying the two companies are at war and the war is very real. Now, AEW president Tony Khan has said that a number of names have alleged that WWE has reached out to him while under contract with AEW. Speaking on the Dan Lee Batard show with Stugotz, Khan noted that he cannot confirm if these allegations are true himself, but stated that a, quote, lot of wrestlers have approached him about WWE, allegedly asking them to break their contracts. We do actually have a clip of this, so we'll play the clip and see what Khan had to say in his very own words.
I can't really comment on what their internal struggles, internal stripes are, because I don't work there and I'm not there. I can only speak to the challenges we've had. And, you know, I've had a lot of wrestlers come to me and allege that WWE reached out to them to tamper with their contracts and ask them to break their contracts. I can't confirm that specifically. I can only tell you what the wrestlers have come to me and said. But I've had multiple wrestlers and staff report that to me. It was a very disturbing. And I've had to go out and try to put on good shows despite this alleged tampering and stuff like that. But frankly, I don't think it stopped us because the quality of the product and the quality of the shows is at an all-time high right now. We just did a great... please.
Is the wrestling business as dirty as the fight business?
The wrestling business is very dirty. I can't speak to the fight business, but certainly I think it's more organized than the fight business. As far as, you know, there's two, I think, well-organized promotions competing with each other. Again, I don't know if these things have happened. I only know what people have come to me and alleged. But I do know that it's a real war between AEW.
Certainly, he was choosing his words very carefully there, wasn't he, Tony Khan? Of course, it was reported in August 2022 that Tony Khan reportedly told talent that AEW legal chief Mega Parek had sent a warning email to WWE regarding the alleged contract tampering. This came after reports that a notable AEW talent known to be under contract had reported to AEW management that WWE reached out to them about joining the company. Of course, this was on the back of Triple H taking control of the company's creative and as well as the talent relations department, with quite a few AEW talents currently under contract being favored by Triple H, but of course it didn't work out for them under the Vince McMahon regime, and certainly there have been stories that Triple H himself has reached out and contacted said AEW talent. But when it comes to Triple H taking over the head of creative back in July, of course all of this speculation begun about which former WWE stars would return to the company. Whilst numerous free agents have since returned to WWE, other names speculated were names that are currently contracted to All Elite Wrestling. Of course, this led, as I mentioned, to AEW sending a warning email to the company, as various AEW stars had alleged to Khan that WWE had reached out to them following the change in regime. Now, as I mentioned, this comes back to this whole situation that Tony Khan is talking about here. And Khan spoke about this alleged contract tampering in this interview with the clip that we just showed, but also said that he believes this shows that there is a real war between WWE and AEW. He also then was pressed about, can you show some examples of where there is a war between WWE and AEW? And he spoke about how WWE had reached out to New Japan Pro Wrestling. He also spoke about his reaction to it and spoke about it being an example of the real-life hatred between WWE and AEW.
What's interesting is the story that is the most real, the most intense, And the most hatred in all of pro wrestling is that between the two wrestling promotions. I think we truly, truly hate each other. And I think it makes for really exciting TV, and it makes for an exciting wrestling war.
What is an example of that hatred? Because you haven't articulated it quite like that before.
Well, I'll give you a good example. About 2 years ago, there was a rumor I read on the internet that my business partner, New Japan Pro Wrestling, had gotten a phone call from Nick Khan about switching over to work with them. And I was really just getting started with New Japan. Like we'd only been working together a short time. And that also had been, frankly, a tumultuous relationship, but it was getting pretty good. And to this day, it is an amazing partnership. And I called the New Japan executives and said, is this true? Did WWE call you and try to get you to turn on me? And they said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, are we still doing the stuff we have planned? Because at the time, we had a match set up for Wednesday Night Dynamite where there was going to be a New Japan title match in AEW. It was the first of many of those such matches. And they told me, no, we don't trust them. We want to work with you and we want to stay with you. And ever since, our relationship has been incredibly positive. And, it gave me motivation to say, like, okay, I don't know if that's true or not. I only know what my business partner alleged to me and what I read on the internet, and they were both the same thing. So following up on that, if that's the case, I know they're out there to get me. I know they're out there to hurt AEW's relationships with our business partners, if that's the case, allegedly. And, it made me want to work that much harder to make AEW stronger. And then that ended up being probably the biggest year for growth we've ever.
I know they're out to get me. Again, certainly interesting words being chosen there by the AEW president. Now, he also spoke about how he pitched AEW to Warner Bros. At the time, just Warner Bros., now Warner Bros. Discovery, when he was looking to secure a relationship with them. This was in a separate interview of Uproxx. He revealed, quote, there are always going to be free agents and big names that become available over time in pro wrestling. And I think that's one of the reasons that the launch of AEW was so exciting. The AEW CEO would also reveal how he leveraged this information in his discussion, saying, quote, that was actually part of my presentation to Warner executives 5 years ago, was that we could be creating the first truly competitive free agent market in pro wrestling in 2 decades. I felt that there was a disparity, the choices available to a wrestler as far as which promotions they want to work with. Khan has now been able to see how his belief has impacted the televised wrestling business, adding, quote, and I think now with the rise of AEW, it's provided better choices and an alternative to wrestling fans, but also for the pro wrestlers. And historically, particularly in the cable TV era, that free agent market and the excitement around it can generate a lot of buzz for a wrestling company, and sometimes for multiple wrestling companies as wrestlers go back and forth. Certainly, again, interesting comments. Now, he was also asked on another show he was on. He's been doing certainly the media rounds recently. He appeared on the John Chuckery show, and he addressed his on-screen presence when the question was asked, hey, could you become an on-screen talent? He said, quote, first of all, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to attract or take away any time from the great wrestlers in AEW, so I really try to limit the time on-screen appearances that I make. When I do come out, it's generally easier to make a very special announcement or specific instructions. I believe that served us very well, and that's the role I would like to keep, more of being a device on the show than actually taking up a lot of time. As far as becoming the next Mr. McMahon or Eric Bischoff or Dixie Carter and adopting an on-screen personality, Khan went on to say, quote, I don't really want to be a character taking up a lot of time on the show, but I also like answering people's hypothetical phone questions. So I think in my limited appearances, I do like representing the company, which is a babyface company, generally in a babyface role. I don't think it's really my role to be out there trying to get heat. If we needed that or were really up against it, maybe I would try that, but I don't think there's any need or really any demand for that. I think we're doing it now. The way we're doing it now is we're doing it very well. And I think he's right. We've seen some Tony Khan appearances on television in character. We don't need to see that, in my opinion, certainly. Now, he was also asked about the internet wrestling community relationship that he has. Of course, he's very active on social media. And in the interview with Uproxx, Khan said, quote, "I've been part of the internet wrestling community since almost the very beginning, since I was 12 years old. If I've ever taken a break from it, it's probably not been much more than a day." He would go on then to reveal, quote, "I pretty consistently have been reading and talking about wrestling on the internet for the better part of the last 3 decades. I love the feedback from the fans. I love engaging with the internet wrestling fans and seeing what they think. And sometimes you'll get a mixed opinion, but when there is a very strong, uniform opinion on something, it can be a good signal or a hint as to what the right direction for us could be." Again, he's been very active on social media, and he does, for his fairness, he does listen to the fans, sometimes to his detriment online, but certainly interesting to say that he's always active and he's always watching. We haven't seen Lance Archer on AEW television in a while, and by all accounts, it's not up to him. As AEW continues to grow in now its 4th year of existence, more wrestlers have begun to call the company home. One name who has been with the company since 2020 is Lance Archer, who arrived in the company alongside WWE Hall of Famer Jake the Snake Roberts. Archer has been a part of several big matches on AEW TV, including defeating Jon Moxley for the IWGP United States Championship in a Texas death match. Archer last wrestled on December 23, 2022, as part of the final match of the Suzuki Gun faction, where he teamed with Minoru Suzuki, Taka Michinoku, and El Desperado in a losing effort to stablemates Dookie, Tachi, Yoshibu Kanema, and Zack Sabre Jr. His last match for AEW took place on the November 18 episode of AEW Rampage, where he lost in the AEW World Championship Eliminator Tournament to Ricky Starks. Taking to Twitter today, Archer addressed his absence, noting that it's been 51 days since his last match, and that isn't by choice. He tweeted, quote, "51 days since I laced up my boots last, not by choice." Archer isn't the only current AEW star that's not been in action recently, with Miro also recently voicing his frustrations with his lack of television time. As to when we could see Archer, or Miro for that matter, back on AEW television, we don't know. If we get any updates, we'll let you know. Of course, AEW is launching house shows very, very soon, and Tony Khan has recently discussed the launch of the House Rules series of AEW house shows and the impact a WWE Hall of Famer has had on plans. The first of the House Rules shows will take place in Troy, Ohio on March 18, following up the first non-televised event AEW ran in April 2021 called The House Always Wins. Speaking to Stu Murick on Sports Guys Talking Wrestling, another show, Tony Khan gave some insight into AEW's house show business, saying, quote, "It's great. We have these great opportunities. We have a great team working on it. We've had great AEW live events. I've worked closely with Raphael Morphy and the team for a long time." Khan would go on to discuss the inclusion of Jeff Jarrett, who joined AEW in November of last year as an on-screen talent and director of business development, stating, quote, "Now we've had, on top of that, we brought on Jeff Jarrett, who is one of the greatest minds in pro wrestling on the promotional side, but also in the ring. What a strategist, and truly still one of the best. It's great to have Jeff Jarrett wrestling in big matches. You see Jeff Jarrett out there almost Wednesday night on TBS. He'll come in and be a great wrestler for us. I have so much respect for his mind and out of the ring in the wrestling side and also on the promotional side. He's had a great impact on our live event business, and he's a great person to have in my locker room. I love working with him, but also the live event business I think will add a lot, and the House Rules is the next step. I started this movement, and that's why I enjoyed working with him on it." The AEW owner would also discuss The House Always Wins and how that has impacted the fans, explaining, quote, "Raphael and I put on an event with our team in Jacksonville. That was actually our first quote-unquote house show, The House Always Wins, and now it's almost become mythical because I've never released the tape. I'm waiting for the right time." He would conclude by saying that fans still talk about that non-televised event, which saw Darby Allin take on The Butcher for the TNT Championship. During the match, The Butcher would suffer a hand injury, which sidelined him from AEW and his music career as well. There had been rumors that they were waiting for a streaming deal to be announced before actually showing that match. Whether we'll ever see it, I don't know. But it is taped, and it does feature Cody Rhodes as well. When is Fight Forever being released? Well, your guess is as good as mine. An update has emerged on what seems to be the planned release date for the upcoming AEW video game Fight Forever. It's almost become a meme at this point that the game has been announced for so long with no date set, but it sounds like we might not have to wait too much longer. It was reported recently that one of the major holdups was the ESRB rating, as the game's content wasn't allowing it to get the teen rating it desired. However, a few days ago, the ESRB did give the game its desired teen rating, so it shouldn't be an issue any longer. Andrew Zarian of the Wrestling Observer tweeted that he spoke to an old colleague who is deep in the gaming world who provided an update. According to Zarian's old colleague, the game currently slated for a release in Q2 of 2023, which would mean April, May or June. AEW Fight Forever has been listed for a while with a release date of December 31st, but that's just been an obvious placeholder until something does get made official. WWE 2K23, meanwhile, is set for a release on March 17 or March 14 for people who pre-order the special edition. So again, they're looking at Q2 of this year. When we get an official actual release date, we'll of course let you know here on the channel. Thunder Rosa, when is she set to return to the ring? Well, not anytime soon, despite being back on the road of AEW. Rosa has been out of action since August of last year, over 6 months at this point, and the details of her injury are still somewhat vague. As we covered previously, there was a step in the right direction as Rosa did return to AEW for Dynamite in the capacity of rejoining the Spanish announce team for the show. This obviously led to some to hope and speculate that she could be getting back in the ring soon, but it sounds like there might be still some waiting to do. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that Thunder Rosa is still, quote, not ready for an in-ring return as of right now. AEW and Tony Khan were initially hopeful of Rosa not being absent for so long, which of course is why Tony Storm was only made an interim champion at first, but as the absence grew longer, the decision was made to fully strip Rosa of the title and retroactively make Storm's reign with the title a full one, and of course Jamie Hayter is the current official champion. Again, recent updates from Dave Meltzer had pointed to a February/March time for the expected return, but at the time of recording, that still looks a bit unlikely. Again, if we get any details on that, we'll let you know in a future video. Obviously, MJF's promo stirred up a lot of controversy and discussion last week, and there had been some discussion that it wasn't planned. Well, the promo during which MJF claimed he was in a car accident with his high school crush in the passenger seat, and before the police arrived, he moved his unconscious crush into the driver's seat so he didn't get in trouble. That's the promo. Now, the rumor at play here was that MJF's promo was totally unplanned, and it was a last-minute thing to make up time straight after the match between Jamie Hayter and the Bunny due to it being cut short due to the Bunny suffering an injury. According to Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select, though, that was not the case, and the promo was always planned. It was actually listed on the internal show formats before the show began. After the events of Dynamite, MJF's 60-minute Iron Man match against Bryan Danielson at Revolution on the March 5th show is now official after Danielson picked up a victory over Rush. MJF won a rare match of his own on the same show, defeating Konosuke Takeshita in the opener as well. AEW has announced that MJF is contractually obligated to appear on this week's Dynamite in Laredo, Texas. Finally, Jeff Jarrett, he's spoken about how he's blurred the lines in a recent exchange and a recent storyline he's had with AEW World Tag Team Champions, The Acclaimed, on AEW television. As I mentioned, he's the AEW Director of Business Development, but he's also featured heavily as an on-screen talent since joining the company, with one of his biggest storylines to date being against The Acclaimed. He and Jay Lethal chased the AEW World Tag Team Championships during that rivalry, and things got personal with some of the comments made in the promos and raps involving everyone involved. It is something that got a lot of people talking at the time, with many wondering if Max Caster had gone too far. Jarrett admitted that there were, quote, some blurred lines when discussing the rivalry with the Wrestling Perspective podcast, which is something that fans thought had happened. Caster had thrown some personal shots towards Jarrett, including one about his wife and her former partner Kurt Angle, which certainly caused a reaction from fans. Quote, personal issues draw money, and when you do have personal issues, it has got to be reality-based, he said. To this day, there are folks that are not really sure when all lines were blurred a couple of weeks ago, but that is, to me, if you're telling a story, if it's 100% fiction, your audience knows it. To me, it truly is that simple. So you have to blur the lines. The blurred lines between The Acclaimed and the WWE Hall of Famer got wrestling talking, the wrestling world talking, and the fact that Karen Jarrett got involved on social media added more fuel to the fire when it came to audiences not being sure as to what was real, which is something Jeff Jarrett had aimed to create, and create that he certainly did. But there you go, guys. That's the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button. You get badges, emojis, members priority chat, and of course, exclusive members-only access to upcoming members only or roster members only live shows and video content, which is all in the pipeline for the very near future. Have a great Monday, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.